didn't hear from her that she wasn't coming.
She's coming.
Whatever time it is, 6:01. Want to do the flag salute? Where's the flag, guys? Oh, there it is over there. Shall we stand and have the flag salute? Somebody want to lead besides me? To the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, GB's online.
Does anybody have amendments to, well, we'll do a roll call, so especially since we have Jamie online. Go through and state your name, please, for the record. Laura, do you need that or?
No,
She's just gonna do it. All right, how about the agenda? Any additions to the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the agenda for tonight is approved. And now do we have amendments to the minutes or corrections to the minutes for April 25th and May 2nd?
I think they corrected the 27th.
Mhm.
Oh, Linda's online? Great.
Nathan, I know last time when I was online, it was hard for me to get unmuted to talk when I was at home.
Yeah, I think that was.
I was texting.
Okay.
So I would make a motion to approve both the minutes for the April 25th and May 2nd.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the minutes are so approved. We're ready to move on to the budget review. I think that the questions that the budget committee had about the way the budget itself was presented in a new format, and also the questions about, I think they've been addressed. So we're ready to move on. I hope to going through line by line and having questions at an appropriate time when that line comes up. We don't have to have a question on every line. We can have 10 questions on one line. So, Ray, thank you for this. Oh, by the way, Ray printed up, scanned it for us.
Madam Chair, before we get started, I've also provided a handout for you. Everybody should have one at your space there. This is a document we stole from another district, but it's a great document in terms of showing the different roles of the budget committee, the board of directors, as well as how the budget is developed. I heard some questions along this process to make sure that we need to address how the budget is developed. Lorraine doesn't sit behind closed doors and just comes out and says, here's the budget. There's a lot of input, as you can see under their staff section there. You can read it as well as I can read it to you in terms of how the budget is developed. It involves your administrators, your teachers, your staff, your key employees. And Lorraine gathers all this information, or the business manager does, and starts to put it together. And then when she puts it together and says, uh-oh, we're over budget by 500,000. So she goes back to those people and say, okay, you're gonna have to make some adjustments here. There's more discussions and more of a process. So just realize that this isn't just Lorraine making the final call. This is her putting it together, and then she has dialogue with me and to make sure things are on. But we want to make sure that all of our staff are being supported in the best way possible too. And that's why their input is so valuable and important. Now, the budget committee, I want to make sure that we have a clear distinction between the budget committee role and the board of directors role, because there is a difference. Programming, that is your programs you have, like math or CTE or athletics, or that's your programming. Programming decisions are board of directors, not the budget committee. Now, there is some overlap because as a budget committee member, you're sitting there looking at the budget saying, why do we need this? What's this for? You have to know, about the programming. But in terms of deciding the programming, that's not the budget committee territory. So I think our discussions have kind of gone over into that a little bit. And I understand, we all understand, this is a year of change. This is a year of resetting. This is a year of some serious personnel stuff that we've had to deal with to produce this balanced budget. So I think today, if I might ask you, let's really focus just on the budget. And I'm going to have Lorraine go through this, and she printed out the supplemental budget documents that you have in front of you.
Mhm.
If we went line by line, we would be here till 5 a.m. So she's going to hit the major areas. And as we go through this, if there's something that steps out to you, that, and you want to ask, but we're going to kind of move through this pretty quickly, not to try and overwhelm you, not to try and railroad this through. We generally want you to be engaged with this, but we also have a time factor here. If we can't pass a budget tonight, it really sets us back in terms of the time, the other actions that need to happen so we can get the budget finalized, printed, all those sorts of things by June 30th. So I'd really like to see us make an approval tonight. But we want you to be engaged. We want to answer your questions the best way we can, but we need to move through a mountain of documents here very quickly.
Then I should have maybe brought up, do we want to talk about timing tonight? We have 4 board members who can stay until 5. Yeah, Linda's here. Yeah, do we have hard time limit for tonight?
I think it's set till 8, isn't it?
Right?
6:30.
Okay.
But I'd kind of like
Well-
to stay on track.
That's true,
The
but
last
let's say
couple
we're
of them,
almost
we
done.
did 30.
Oh,
Let's say we're
Yeah.
almost done and we got like 20 more minutes and we don't have to come back. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but
I'm
I don't
okay
know who
with that.
anyone else does.
All right. Good. Glad we had that discussion. Thank
Okay.
you, Lorraine. Love to hear
right.
your presentation.
Lorraine, this is on you.
Okay, so we're just going to go over the expanded, is really what it is, expenditures from the object, and I implement, this is a duplication of all the revenue sheets, but the expenditure sheets are the expanded sides, but you can see the revenue and then the expense, revenue, expense idea. So the first page is your general fund revenue. We went over the revenue on general fund unless you have any questions on the general fund revenues, state school fund, property tax, beginning fund balance, those kind of things. The next page, we have is instructional. This is general fund. So instructional, elementary, we have about 10.68 teachers and then one classified EA coming out of the general fund. We have some tuition reimbursement in there, you can see, for 25,000. And then you can see that our consumable supplies, 410, is much lower than the previous years, and that's mainly due to the Learn at Home program not sending out supplies as much. Next page, your 112 is history only. We never should use that 112. So 113 is elementary extracurricular. There was budget in the past. That's now been, any of that has been moved for the future to 218, which is athletics. Then you have middle school programs. We have 4.40 on the license salary there, no classified EAs. Next page, we have the extracurricular for middle school. And that's all history, it's blank. It's all moved to athletics. The next page is for
When
the
you
high
say
school.
next page, you might want to call out the number,
Okay.
like 1121,
Let's
1122.
say I'm on 1131 high school programs. We have about 3.92 FTE in there for the high school programs. And then that follows on to the next page of, and I just wanted to remind everybody that PERS has increased. So that's what, a big expense increase there. And then we have a little bit of social studies curriculum and that 37 for textbooks in the high school. Social studies and English a little bit there. We go to 1132, which was normally your, it had your extra, your athletics in that 1132, but the only people that are in there now are actually your extra duty stipends. And that's under negotiation still, but extra duty stipends are there. And all the remaining amounts have been moved to 218.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
On the 1132, the 150 coaching athletics, is that a salary column or row?
Additional salaries 9,100 or
No, two down
6,500?
from there. 150 coaching athletics. What is that?
Under 1132,
Yeah,
150.
yeah, 1132 and then 150 coaching athletics.
Well, actually, that is history. There's nothing proposed for the new year,
Okay,
but there is under 151, which is your club advisors for 65,000.
so I guess can you explain what's changed there? Because have they swapped essentially?
I pulled all of athletics out to be to fund 218 so that we could actually see how much athletics is costing the district.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question on 218? Well, not 218, but what you just said.
Sure.
And you can answer it later. Oh, 257. Why isn't that in 218, which is baseball, softball? But you can answer it if we go past that.
That was a separate fund in itself, and that was one donation.
Okay, okay.
And I didn't want to commingle those
Nope,
monies.
that explains it, donation. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. 1140 preschool programs, it's zero, it's blank for the proposed. 1121 is your talented gifted. If you see any, it's 0.03 for FTE, but that's just the tag stipend. Plus its associated payroll costs. And then we are at 1250, your SPED program. You can see that it has 4 SPED licensed. And then it has your 5.60, a SPED classified, and you have a 0.25 on your SPED admin.
Are you on 1121?
No, 112, 1150, it's for sped.
Oh,
1250.
wait, I
Wait,
thought
wait.
sped was in special revenues.
I have 1140, 1210,
Yeah,
1250.
Yes, we're in 1250. Did
Okay.
I mess up?
okay, I see.
You're okay.
So
Okay.
I'm on the FTE four,
Got it.
5.6.25.
I have a
So wait a
question
minute.
back in pre-K, just because I thought there was a discussion at a board meeting recently about that we're gonna have half of the salary that we paid at pre-K anymore.
It's blank. Yeah, it's, nothing is there, which means we haven't allocated anything for preschool.
We used to pay for part of an aid out there, but we no longer do that because they received the earlier learning promise grant.
So under 1140111. Oh, I see the line. That now I got
Yeah,
you.
so it's
I'm with
2 years
you.
of actuals and then.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
So another thing I was gonna make sure it's under the 1250 sped still, the second page of that, you can see under the equipment or the capital purchases, it's 200,000, which is capital for sped related items. That is new.
The replacement equipment purchase?
Well, it's under the 5,000s. I think.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
New extended that was handed out different than the one you emailed?
No,
Jamie, are you seeing inconsistencies?
Are we going through the extended one that you emailed?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're on 1250 student with disabilities total, correct?
1250, yeah.
Yeah.
What about it?
Oh, I got you.
What about
And then you said 25,
I can't hear your question. What was your question?
Jamie, you cut out.
you had said something about a 250 something, the 250 line? I don't
Okay,
have
so
that line.
I will repeat myself. Under 1250, which is sped related services with a,
Uh-huh.
and you see on that page, it has the 4 FTE. The
Mhm.
next page below that, I was explaining that we have 200.
It's on the top.
Mine
on the
doesn't-
right, in the middle.
Say for FTE.
See, this electronic version is not agreeing with that.
She's talking
Well, look here,
1250.
1250, licensed salaries, there's
Can
nothing
you
there.
make it smaller?
Uh-huh.
This is
Control.
1210.
It is agreeing with that.
1250.
It's-
It's the online
That's
version.
just the
Oh, you
boss,
have to
yeah.
scroll. This is now, this is alternate ed.
Excuse
So
me.
It's, yeah.
I
And then
printed, I
that's-
printed.
Okay, okay.
It
I'm
It
looking at
does
it wrong.
agree because I printed mine and I'm following yours and it's the same.
So it's actually 121,
It's a-
1250.
setup.
I'm like,
Oh, I think I'm looking at it backwards also.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was doing the same, Jamie.
Yeah, we all were.
start and finishes there too.
Sorry.
okay.
Is this where Lorraine gets to
That
say? I
looks
was right?
better.
Yes, yes.
I'm right. So I hate to be
Yeah,
wrong in
yeah.
this situation.
Sorry.
Not the moment to be wrong.
Well, I mean, I'm printing.
Okay, yeah,
Is everybody looking
Okay.
at the full
Much
page
better
thing
now.
as the-
Okay,
Yeah.
The
so-
start of it,
Are you good, Jamie?
not going back to the.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks so much.
Okay,
Took me a
so
minute
I
to-
was
Good,
explaining
good, good.
that
I kept, and she's going so fast, like, she's like, wait.
I will slow down.
Okay.
Wait, got it.
okay,
She's got
where are
it
we at now?
memorized at this
We are
point.
on, we're past sped, unless anybody has more questions. And you see 1280 alternative ed,
Got it.
and it's blank, which means there is no alternative ed proposed for the new budget.
What is the definition of that?
It's alternate ed. We had one in the past.
We had,
Like credit recovery?
yeah, it
I
was,
was thinking, yes, so.
can't remember the name of the program, but yes, we had an alternative ed in the past. And that's why you see numbers in 2021, 21, 22. Remember the board cut one of those programs last year.
Are you talking about the other high school programs, the
Ye-
online ones?
yes.
Yes, and then we had one in building too,
Yes,
like a credit recovery type service. in
Yeah,
building,
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So charter school is 1288 charter schools, and that's where they're using that function line for the online platforms. So we have two, you can see that it's drastically reduced.
Yes.
Sorry, that's the platform for Learn at Home.
For Learn at
Oregon.
Home. Mhm.
Okay,
The
Thank
two
you.
different
You're saying the one that
platforms.
was 900,000 and now it's 21,000?
English as a second language program, that is 1291 is a stipend only. And then some travel. If somebody has to travel on that. We are done with the 1,000 instructional total. Under that, we're starting our 2,000, which is support services. And 112, excuse me, social worker is
2113.
2113. And the next page, okay, so 2114 is accounting services, that's register. 2120 guidance counselor, there's none there because that is actually in grants. 2134 is nursing services. 2142 is psychology, psychological testing services. And then we go to the next one of speech and language.
I'm
pathology.
sorry,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
apologize. What is student accounting services?
Where are you looking?
I'm sorry,
That
it's
is actually the
2114.
That's just how they break out the register.
Okay. okay,
Registrar.
Yep, yep,
Registrar.
okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
Thank you, sorry.
and then
I-
can I ask on, oh, go ahead, Jamie.
My question is for these psychological testing and speech pathology, how come those aren't falling under SPED services?
This is the general fund and it is actually, this is SPED, this is Learn at Home, this is. brick and
Okay.
mortar, everything.
Okay,
It's just broken out by fund, function and object in detail now.
got you. Okay, thank you.
Broken out by area.
Okay, so I have a question now, and it's in the same area, so, are the psychological testing services, and so 2142 and 2152, are those not services provided by our ESD?
The 21 what again?
2142,
Yeah.
psychological testing services, and 2152, aren't those services provided by our ESD contract?
21
Only for brick and mortar students. ESD will not provide those services for online. So we've been going through an outfit called Presence Learning,
Mhm.
and they provide those services. We're going to be cutting back quite a bit in that expenditure this last year. I just met with Krista
Mhm.
and our in-house SLP this morning. We're going to be expanding her duties, so it'll be a lot less cost from Presence Learning. So I don't anticipate the district actually spending the whole 161,000 next year. I think that'll be cut in half, but we have to get there.
So, so then in the 2152, where we have a 1.0 FTE, we
Yeah.
have somebody in-house that's covering brick and mortar and Learn at Home for speech and
Yes.
pathology services?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Much
That's-
more
I guess I thought those were through the ESD, but I get that now. Okay.
Right. It's a matter of transitioning.
2160 is other student treatment services. And anyways, that's an online SPED service as well, Presence Learning. I think it's either your behavioral health or occupational therapy, one of those two. 2190 is your direct service direction. Really, that is a 0.25 and it's secretarial services is what that is. And it could be like district-wide reporting, and it's its function is a little bit different, but that's really what they do. They're secretarial.
But they're not employed. Oh, no, there I see their first contribution. Never mind.
For library media, it's there if we need it. I followed last year. Really haven't ever been using it. So, but it's library media. You can see through history that it's blank. Assessment and testing, your 0.06 is a stipend for those, testing coordinator stipend. You have 2240, which is instructional
I
professional
have a-
development.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
on the assessment and testing, is that just for things like normal testing, like mapping, or is it testing for special needs, like
No, it's not sped.
IEP?
It's not sped.
It's not,
related,
it's just
testing
totally
coordinator.
normal testing,
Yeah, I
right?
think
Okay.
that's- Yeah,
Like MAP.
yeah.
So-
It's-
Like maps or the state testing.
Oh, yeah, state,
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
mhm.
like third, eighth.
Yes,
Okay,
mhm,
got
yes.
it. Thank you.
So when I put 1,000 in the professional development for travel, more or less, it's under the threes for travel. And then we have Board of Education Services, 2310 is Board of Education Services. And went through that. And legal services, very important there. We have audit services. I'm trying to highlight the bigger numbers. Oh, and then 26, if the board has like some contracts they would like to use, and that would be considered like information officer, public information officer, and those kind of things. It's more than just one person, but more than one contract.
So does this have anything to do with, is this stuff that we pay PSD for? Like, is this Board of Education as in state?
Oh, no. this is-
No.
This is
your
just
board.
us. Okay, that's what I wanted, that,
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify that.
Going on to Office of the Superintendent, we have 0.25 in secretarial services, 0.75 for your superintendent, and 0.88 is a portion of your executive secretary. And these FTEs are one person, so their other portions are in other locations.
So the 1.88 is
0.88
multiple
is
locations, one
actually-
person.
Yeah, I think she's.
Got it.
Well, like the superintendent,
district-wide
0.75 is gonna be general fund, and then 0.25, since she's a sped director, goes in sped.
Moving on to the Office of the Principal. So we have 2.0 on the classified and 2.0 on the principals. Have their benefits. You can see that there's tuition reimbursement if it's necessary. We have advertising, it's gone way down to 10,000 on 10,000 for postage, 10,000 for advertising in that category for under the Office of the Principal. And then we have a principals only supplies line. This is for their designation or what they want to use it for. Then we have physical services. This is where your 2.0 is actually, the budget is created to hopefully capture the needs of going forward of what the district would like. So I made sure that however we work it, it's by the district's needs. So 2.0 and 1, and that is in the budget under our payroll, but we're outsourcing some of it currently. So that is there. And then you also have down here on other technical, professional technicals, a little bit for outside services as well. Then we have, the next page is operations, which is maintenance. So this is, these ones, the top one is the 1.67, which is your maintenance help, and your 1.0 is your maintenance supervisor. And then down below on services of what they provide, the 20,000 was some doors and planned repairs, planned repairs said. This 2,000, okay, so telephone, you can see through history, it was 9 and then 18, and then they budgeted 600 last year. And I'm budgeting 2,000. We are currently under telephone in the current year, only have about 1,050. So it's right in line with the current year.
I also want to point out line 326 fuel. Notice we budgeted 56,000 for next year. We're hopeful that we have the power panels coming a little sooner than later, and so we're hoping that we'll be able to have our new HVAC heating system going by January-ish. So that should cut that 56,000 probably in half. Assuming we can get it running. So that's a diesel fuel for heat.
So, with that, the $10,000 on other non-instructional, professional and technical 389 is repairs if repair services if needed. So like if your boiler goes out or something like that, there's necessary budget lines that have to, just in case something really happens, and that easy, just as an easy repair.
And is that 56,000 more actually what it costs to run the boiler?
If we had to run a
Yes.
boiler next year with the price of fuel right now, all year long, it'd be 56,000.
It's gone up that much.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this last year's budget was actually because they were anticipating it already being done.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's why the 10,000.
Gotcha.
we have some in, yes, the 18,000 at the bottom.
What
for-
number are you on? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm still on,
541.
I'm still on the same page. I'm
Okay.
going over, but there's 18,000 and 15,000. They're bigger numbers, so I was gonna just highlight them. These are your initial additional equipment purchases or replacement equipment purchases, and so it was asked about for additional maybe locks and intercoms if needed. And the next one down would be mower / tractor / boiler repair, like replacement, excuse me, not. Oh, and then you'll notice on the next page of your insurance, it's 79,000. With property insurance has gone up about 20%. And I went to look because the budget says 55 this year, but we are currently at 65,000. So 65,000 in that line, then you add about a 20% and you come up with about 79. So we're on to transportation services. Remember, this incorporates 3 transportation locations. So we have 15.88 and a 1 manager. And they have 15 grand down in the repairs property services, actually, it's property services. And when I looked into that, it was to do with if they want outside service inspections for buses. And then we have another outside services, which would be your 389 for 35,000. And that's outside bus maintenance, really, if we're, depending on if we're having outside repairs or things like that. You also have some property tax insurance down there at 32,000.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
in this category?
Oh,
The FTEs for this, the total for this column in this budget, this is for Alsea, WLA and Kings Valley. So this is not just our
this is
district.
everybody.
This
Right.
is the entire transportation services.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
did want to, I guess we don't need it. It's actuals, but when I was going through it, it was kind of a, and it was a kind of a sort of blinking light on an actual in the 2021 column about 55,000, and now we're for other property services. That was when I went to research, that was actually fuel. And you can see that it's fuel on the next page for that year is empty. So just incorrectly allocated. So then we're moving on to sped transportation services. I didn't put anybody there. When I talked to the transportation department and as well as the sped director for that service.
And that can change based upon your
Yes.
IEPs.
Yeah,
You know, if you have incoming students that need services, we may have to
changed it around.
change it around.
Would it be beneficial to allocate some funds there or just move them if we need to allocate them?
We're trying to be lean and mean.
Okay.
What about the bus monitors? Are they not sped related?
They're not sped related. There's a general fund.
Oh, yeah, to break them out, being that, yeah, they're just.
Right.
We have Purchasing services, it looks like there was only actuals done in 2020 FY 20-21, and it hasn't been used since. And then we have, we're moving on to technology services.
2660.
2660, correct, thank you. This is a stipend only area with associated payroll costs. And then we have some we're lowering our computer hardware and computer software purchases to be what the technology, I was recommended by technology that these are their amounts they are wanting to see. And it's lower, so it's lean.
Does that have anything to do with learn at home or not?
Yeah, because we bought
I know we.
a lot of Chromebooks,
Right.
and now that we're reducing, we have a plethora of Chromebooks.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're pretty good on a lot of our technology.
Yeah. Yep.
And the only thing that will be going in is there's ESD services for that are to do with cybersecurity and those kind of things. So this last page for Fund 100 is really easy. This is our last payment of the 18 or 20,100 for our house, which is nice. We have transfer of funds. The first one for 123 is food, 259 is bus, and athletics is 164. And then we have 120 contingency, and then unappropriated means you cannot, it's not usable at the 2.22. We'll run through the special revenues a little faster unless you have some questions, because the main details were in the general fund, but okay. What?
That's where most of my
Okay,
questions
well,
are.
we can get there. Okay, so Fund 200, this is for miscellaneous local grants, and they're designated by sub areas. So your breakdown on the next page is kind of we put 5,000 in for sensory room grant, or 10,000 is for your family liaison grants. The 44 really were for forestry grants. Are you knowing what page we're on?
The 44 was for what?
Are you
again?
at what number? If you can just say the
Fund-
3-digit number, like 203
We're
and
on
then.
Fund 200 expenditures.
Okay,
It's all one
perfect.
page.
That's perfect. Yep.
And you were talking about the 44,200. What was
Yeah.
that again?
It's a bunch of, but you also, we put some in there for forestry grants and different grants that, they're miscellaneous grants that come in throughout the year
Mhm.
that, okay, for family liaison grants or sensory room grants or those kind of things that are local. Next page is 201 federal funding. This is, federal, okay, this is none at this time. There's no proposal on that one for 201.
A lot of it has to do with eligibility.
That one does.
Like we used to have REAP, and it's an
Mhm.
old federal program. We no longer qualify for it.
Yeah, we will. So it's history and 201 expenditures. Excuse me. We're on 202 title. That is, these are title 1 to 203. So those are history only ones. I moved them around. 203s are Title 1 grant. And then the next page is the expenditures of the Title 1 grant. We have a 0.65 in that grant for title. You have the next page of 204 is your CNP equipment grant that expired. And so this is just for history only. You have 207 is a YTP grant for 36,000 budgeted. That is a 0.40 for the white youth transition program, YTP, salaries and benefits. Plus they get so much in different products like professional development and phone related items and so forth like that. So in that budget. 210 is that your IDA 611. 611 is people, students over 5 years old for 611. That's the IDA grant and for 122,000, and we have 2 FTEs in there. Sped grant. 214 is actually, it's for history only purposes. 214. 216, it's IDA 619, it's for your ages up to 5. IDA grant for sped. And we come to athletics, 218. This is new, so there's no history, but I wanted to make sure that you see, I put a little in for admissions for gate fees. It's new, coming new this year, next year. And then we have a little for donations in case we get there. And so then we have our interfund transfers, 164.
I have a question about 218.
Yeah.
So because we know that things can change going forward, like it's fluid, like whether we're gonna have baseball, softball, what's happening. And Jamie did mention last time that there was no wrestling coach listed in here. Is this, so I'm assuming that with traveling, and then Sean might, somebody else might know this better, with traveling and all these things that are happening, when you don't have assistant coaches, like you want a person to volunteer and be an assistant coach, let's say, you don't have that, you have to have so many people to travel with so many students to safely, like, you know, I mean, how is this all, like, what if we don't have enough people? Do you pull people from somewhere else to do that?
I mean, what if we don't attract enough volunteers?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we can actually have staff go and then
Okay, yeah.
there's a negotiated rate that we would
Like a
pay them.
stipend type of thing?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
for supervision.
My concern is just that I think we'll have volunteers, but if we don't, then I don't want kids to miss out on something
No,
because we don't have
no,
what we're supposed
No,
to. Okay.
that's just not gonna happen.
Okay,
It's important that we support the programs appropriately, no matter what.
yep, that was my,
So,
And safety is always number one.
so the next 2 pages are the expenditure side of the athletics. You can see we have a
Which
little
number
bit,
you on?
218 athletics expenditures. So we have a little bit in middle school for stipends. You have some supplies for middle school and you have some uniforms for middle school. Then you have high school programs for, that's the 0.13 is usually your athletic director and the stipend that's associated. And then you have some other class of coaching / athletic stipends. And they all together make up 0.89. The next page, still on athletics, has to do with travel. So you have student traveling around hotels. So it travels, it's gas. You have to pay for referees and some athletic dues. So the 9,000, when I went to look for non-consumable items, 9,000, it's a little bit of shot clocks and volleyball equipment.
Sorry. I have a question on 342 and 343. What is that? I don't understand. So student out of district and out of district, that means a student that lives out of the district and then what's the difference between that and out of district? I'm not sure.
Out of district travel is actually out of.
Well, I know what
No,
that
no, no.
is.
Out of district travel, 342 is actually professional development and different things that have to do with that. The student when you actually go and the student goes out of district.
Okay,
to go on some
physically.
sort
Okay,
of,
yeah.
Athletic thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving on, we have 219, which is a history of a student body. It's old. 219 is for both the revenue and expenditures. We have a title quality grant,
221.
221 title teacher quality grant.
I'm sorry, 219 is gonna be a new one later down the road, right? 219
No,
blank now.
219 is funded back into 259.
That's right,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
259, yep.
Yeah,
That's-
259 is,
okay.
and we're using that this year. actually.
I meant
So,
down the road in the book.
yeah. Correct. We have a little bit of revenue coming in for that to be going out on instructional program improvement services for your teacher quality professional development. that's 221. The next revenue and expenditure of Fund 22, Measure 98, that's high school success. That is now a history report, and it's now moved to 252. 223 is an old, and actually the new forest camp is under 263. Since we're getting back into the forest camp, we put that in the budget. History. 226 is ESSA partnerships, and it's actually, we went in length and discussed it as it's CSI/TSI, and it was on the integrated budget for those 4 grants that are on the website, and we had to do in the end of March. So you're
Line for student success.
aligning for student success part, it's part one of those grants, but it's broken out here, 85,000. And your 0.62 is, it's 0.69 is, it's a portion of EAs can be put, where it's classified. Is what we had, the idea of it. For the 85,000. The next 2 pages is ESSER 2, 230. ESSER 2 for 68,000. That is all to be used up very soon. It's for your HVAC system.
Air quality.
231 comprehensive distance learning grant is history only. 232 ESSER 3 is 171,000 still. The breakdown of that mostly is 164 is your HVAC again. And then the above, it says $7,000, and that's for unfinished learning. 240 is an old bus replacement fund, and it's moved to fund 290. 250 is miscellaneous state grants. And then the breakdown puts it in the different allocation function allocations. We don't need that. We don't need it. So on page for I'm on the 251 SIA, which is Student Success Act, 755,000. The expenditures of that is for the top there, elementary education K through 5-4. Here is your learn at home teachers 1. Here is your RTI classified. In your middle school program, 0.20 is your CTE.
I'm
Portion of
sorry,
that-
can you say that again? Repeat what you
Okay,
just,
okay, I'll repeat it all.
no, just the last thing about CTE.
Oh, just on the middle school, only 0.20 is for a CTE program, portion of that, you know. And then the high school, another 4.43. We have some culinary. And then another portion to the forestry program, CTE.
Can you have, one of my questions was about CTE. Because I don't see a 250, whatever. I don't see a fund just for CTE. And I know we just got certified for CTE, but going forward, is there a clump of money that's all CTE? Like not broken out in middle school, high school, because there's nothing in here that says CTE, like the word CTE or the
No,
acronym.
the SIA grant, student investment account, we have put, yeah, we're on that one. We put CTE.
Or they're in the Student Success Act.
We're in the
Yes.
Student Success
And then
Act.
the other portion of that is also high school success, which is also. the
Right,
forest
I just
program
went through here
expense.
and didn't see anything that said CTE, so that's why I wasn't sure. And then when you said CTE,
So they're listed under the grants, and you have to read, if you go to that Aligning for Student Success
right, that's
website.
exactly where I read it at.
Yeah, that's where you can see what you
The
can
goals
use, the
and all that
goals,
stuff.
and
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of
okay.
mention of CTE and especially the Student Success Act.
So my
Could-
question is, with the money that's in here that you have allocated here, this doesn't include, obviously, this is not projecting any Pelham funds that we could get next year, because now
What
we are
funds?
the Pelham grant, which
Okay.
is a CTE grant, which is like everybody that has a CTO
Mhm.
program usually goes after that.
Mhm.
That's not in reflective of any of that.
That would be in a separate grant.
Okay,
collected By
right.
resolution.
Thank you.
And then we
right.
would make sure
Yep.
it's in a separate fund.
Right.
This is SIA only.
Right.
So is there a possibility moving forward to do something similar that you did with athletics, where you could kind of break out CTE programs so we could see all income, all expenditures for that? Is that something that we can see moving forward since we have a new program?
No, the high school success is one grant and it incorporates some of that. The student
Mhm.
investment account incorporates some of that. And then if we get a grant specific just for CTE, that will in its own
Has
little.
to show. Okay,
And so you can't like separate it out in its own little fund, even though it's the revenue is from different funds, different.
so there's,
grants.
there's not another, another report that can be run in the future that would be like basically a profitability where it would show all income and all
Well,
expenses.
Right.
You could always ask for that at the managerial level, but
Okay,
for the budget purposes, you don't want to
You would-
commingle
gotcha.
revenues with whatever their expenditures. You want to make sure they're separate.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Can we
Thank
not?
you. That's what I was
don't move on
asking
yet.
too.
Mhm.
Sorry, I want to go back up to the license salaries under K through 5. You mentioned that was learn at home, but those are only budgeted, those 4 FTEs are only budgeted learn at home, sorry, 251, 1,111.
No,
Yeah.
I know what you're-
I thought those were only in the space that our learn at home got big enough. Are we using those in other areas? Just like we just talked about with the CTE, we're not really, it's not like, it's not slated to learn at home. If other areas grow, we can use those 4.0 in other areas, correct? It's just part of this grant for like lower class sizes and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That's
Yeah.
what I wanted to understand.
The intent is to lower class sizes.
Yeah,
Where we use it, we'll
is
have to see.
dependent on
Yeah.
what our enrollment looks like.
Yep.
Okay.
So I also in this SIA grant on the next page, you have some $25,000 roughly for some supplies. And that is not just program of study supplies, that's all CTE supplies. And then 2113 social work services, that 1.0 is your family liaison. You have counseling services. This is where your guidance counselor is kind of split between, actually you'll see it later, but it's split between the high school success and the SIA grant. Then we have some out of district travel, 15,000, and anyways, it's under the 342, but anyways, this is for your student educational field trips for the SIA grant. And then a little bit for your indirect. The next page is the 252 High School Success Act grant, and that's 158 currently. This is the first 0.20 is 8th grade on track. Your next one of 0.60 is your CTE program of study personnel, and then some more supplies there and travel. And then the 17,000 on the next page is where that's for the going to Lynn Benton Community College courses that
Dual credit.
dual credit. Counseling services, 0.13, you have some guidance counselor there. A little bit indirect of 1,000. And then the total of that is 158. 253 is vision screening grant, $500 in, $500 out. 254 is a summer learning program. That's not happening or not proposed to happen in this next fiscal year.
Summer learning grants were cut state level. Just so you know.
How does that work with YTP? Sorry, I think that's my I get those confused.
YTP is a workforce development
Thank
grant. It's a different funding source.
Okay, I knew it was a different funding source, but I merged them in my brain for some reason, so thank you for that.
Mhm.
The next one is 256 STEM-CTE, and this is history only. You can see history. This is where it was brought up earlier. 257 is your softball/baseball program. The revenue that we have remaining for that from that donation is 3,750, and it's still there. We want to so that donation's separate. baseball funds only. 258 was the emergency connectivity fund. That is no longer happening in the current year, I mean, for the future years. So you don't have a budget or appropriation there. 259 student activity funds. And student activity funds, you just kind of have to know that they're on a cash basis. If you gain cash, you use cash. But then you also, in the budget side of things, you have to prepare to have how many donations, how many fundraisers, and then the expenses out. So it's kind of one of those things.
I have a couple questions
Go
about
ahead.
this fund, and it's always confused me because I've been involved with different things and you hear different things from different people.
Yeah.
My first question is the student activity fund the same as the student, what's the name of it?
Associated Student Body Fund, the ASB.
Student body fund.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes, it's ASB funds.
Is it the same?
Yes.
Okay. So this is gonna, so I pulled the document off of the audit from last August, right? And I just wanted to understand how this works. First of all, I was hoping Sean could tell me in that fund, how is that, I know people give money, they do fundraisers, football team does a fundraiser, they get money, the
Mhm.
leadership's included in
Yeah,
that, right?
oh, yeah.
All that.
Mhm.
Okay, so all of that that's in there, when that money comes in, they spend that money.
Mhm.
And apparently,
Can't now,
I know, I'm just saying before that happened.
before, yes.
So in the budget, in the audit that they did that ended last June.
Yeah.
There was a $32,000 carryover.
Mhm.
And then now and I know that I don't care like what they spent the money on, but what I'm trying to figure out is where is that in
So
this?
you won't see that since we're at an adopted budget. So your beginning fund balance, you see that it was proposed at $22,150 on the resources, 259 resources.
Oh, yeah.
This is the adopted proposed budget, just like we're doing
Right,
now.
right.
So actuals have actually come through, but you won't ever see that until next year's budget process where you can see
Right, but
actuals.
these are actuals from 22, the 32,000. That's from that was an actual
Yeah,
from
that's-
22.
Yeah, that number you'll never see on a budget document yet because you see 2 years of actuals plus
Got
your
it.
adopted, yeah.
Okay, so
So-
I guess what I'm saying is that money? Is
Yeah.
that in here? Is that in the
It's
112,950? Or one,
not exactly like you're thinking, just because
okay,
this 22,150 at the bottom there,
Mhm.
beginning fund balance, that is what they thought was gonna
Okay.
come in as budgeted best
okay,
appropriate for revenue. It actually came in at 32
yeah, and.
For
and-
the audit.
for the audit.
Yeah, and what they thought, I just thought it was interesting that the proposed budget for the revenue was less than the proposed budget for the expenditure, which I didn't think you could do that. But I don't know, that's this,
But that's the audit.
yes,
The audit is not going to reflect those actuals. It won't reflect because you're actually seeing what you guys adopted
Mhm.
last
Okay.
year.
got
What we
it, okay.
predicted.
Until
Yep.
next year, you'll see those actuals. come
Right,
in.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And then we were negative, right? Like 3,000 or something.
Not
And
in
then you
student body
guys,
funds. Or the leadership.
There was some,
which is part of the student body fund,
Yeah.
and then you guys had to make that positive
yes,
because, and you just moved that from somewhere else.
we had to.
I know,
There was-
I know.
yeah.
I'm just,
They were like 5,000 in the hole. And
that's, okay,
and a lot of it came during COVID when you couldn't
do anything.
do anything.
Right,
And
okay.
so, no, we just needed to make it
But all
whole.
of that revenue is self-cash
Yes.
Cash.
revenue.
So
Okay,
that's why that's
Yes,
259 account is just a hair different than the
right,
others because they're
got
cash
it.
in, cash out.
Yep.
This way you have kind of a
Yeah.
cash basis.
Okay, thank you.
good questions.
So, the 12,000 on the next page on 259, still on student body funds, that's scholarship money designated. And then, of course, you have and the others are in just consumable supplies, depending on where they kind of use them. We are now on page for the 261 EIIS grant for 2,765. That's for early intervention indicator. That's software. Here's where you see the 263 Forest Camp, and that spelling is wrong, so I plan on correcting it. But
Work, camp,
that came right out of this the visions. But I didn't catch it before. So anyways, this is from, so this is kind of what we had been using 223, but we're now using 263 for the forest camp, and 11 grand is roughly about what their grant will be probably. And then it's broken out into how the grant can be used. And it's usually going to forest camp, maybe a little 0.03 in the stipend, especially to payroll costs and some supplies. 264 is actually kindergarten partnership innovation grant. And this budget went out, but I don't, this is just a grant in and out. If we don't get it, then we don't use it. Same thing with 265 state grant, for 7,100. If we don't get it, we don't use it.
I was gonna ask about that. It's kind of weird, but why did that go up $4,000?
Oh, they started that program out a little lower and then they gave us more.
Okay, I'm just thinking, I
Enhance
don't
that
know if
program.
that was a pricing thing or what that was.
It was a
about.
timing.
Okay, okay.
So the next 267 TAP asbestos assessment, it needs to be used up, and maintenance knows about this, and it needs to be used up on asbestos training and okay, 268 was our retention, and that is actually discontinued as of the June 30th. So then none goes into the budget next year for the retention grant. 271 is dyslexic history grant.
Is that because, I mean, the money's all gone, right? There's no,
Usually, yeah, they don't have, some grants, we have to give 2 years of actuals, and so
right.
this is mostly history. You can see that,
And is dyslexia now covered in the special, in the sped funds?
well, I'm sure we have dyslexia stuff there, but this was actually a grant just
Right.
giving us money just
Right.
for that again.
No, I know that. I'm just thinking ahead in the future that that is an issue. I know kids that have
We're-
that issue.
We're
so-
required to
Yeah.
have at least one staff member that's officially trained in
Okay.
dyslexia, and currently we have 2 of them.
Okay, perfect.
So TAP grant, this is an old TAP grant for 25,000, and it is history only. 290 bus replacement fund. You can see on the revenue side, we have 35,000, that's a DEQ grant. We have new transfers of 259,000, and our beginning fund balance is hopefully estimated very tiny, if any. Then you have the breakout for the expenditure side, and that's really all of our loan payments. Interest. And acquisition, so we're purchasing bus number 6. That's what the DEQ grant was. Old history, I mean, it's not history, but 291 was Kings Valley / Willamette Leadership Academy summer trans. So it's there in case they happen to use it for their summer program. We have, that's what those lines are, 291. 299 nutrition services.
Can I actually pause there for a
Yeah.
second? Sorry. I appreciate budgeting for something that they might use, given that funds have been cut by the state for summer programs. Do we anticipate the need for this? I mean, I know we have to, it's good to budget for it, put it in there, but
Kings Valley and WLA are tuition-based
I don't know what
schools.
they're doing this one.
We don't,
Kings Valley is a charter, aren't they?
well, Kings Valley is a charter, but I do believe they charge tuition, don't they?
I didn't know
Am I wrong?
I don't
They charge tuition.
I don't.
They charge tuition. We don't
Right,
have a budget.
right.
for
Yeah,
it
really?
anymore, guys.
Wow.
I
Maybe
don't,
I'm wrong.
I don't know that they charge tuition, but I guess that was, I mean, that's a good point. I don't know. the
Yeah, I don't
answer
know
to-
what-
To that,
Yeah,
They don't.
okay.
I didn't think so.
They're Plummet.
yeah.
Oh, they're, okay. then
And
I'm
so I
wrong.
guess that's what, I mean,
I'm thinking there's another charter
Maybe.
in
So-
Philomath that
And I
is
guess-
completely independent. of
so
tuition.
this transportation is strictly for summer programs though, correct?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, when I did some
Okay.
history, just looking around, I left it in the budget just in
Oh.
case they happen to utilize some sort of summer program that we get that expense on our books for.
yep, I appreciate that. I just was.
So just because the
kinda-
state discontinued it,
This is not,
doesn't mean that people, other schools won't have.
Right,
programs.
right.
Self-funded.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
right,
If they
okay.
have the funding for
If
it.
our budget
yeah.
was healthier, I would be pushing for a summer school
Oh,
program,
absolutely, yeah.
regardless of whether we get the state grant or not.
Right, oh, yeah. You can charge tuition.
Yes,
$299 is nutrition services. We're on the revenue side of things. You have some daily sales reimbursable, that's $1,500, that's if non-students go in and get meals and a la cartes. Then you have 1,500, excuse me, 150,000 in their 4,000 lines, it's federal revenue. That's your breakfast and lunch reimbursements. Commodities are direct in and then out in the exact same revenue, and then expenditures just to record. Interfund transfers is going to be it's proposed at $123,000. And then coming in at a very small beginning fund balance. Expenditure side of that is you have 2 FTE classified. Payroll costs altogether, if you add 57 down to 26, it's roughly around 105,000. Then we have some supplies, and we have food for object 450, 166,000. And that's with our what do you call it, our agreement to provide food services. And so, and that's I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sean. Okay, no.
That's,
I've been asked a lot about,
I know, that's.
I've been asked a lot about the transfer, the 123. And right now we've been forever contracting with Corvallis to provide the food, and we just heat it up and serve it here. So if you think about it, we're actually paying double for employees, for staffing. And that 123, once we can get a self-sufficient food service program here, that will go down considerably, if even just disappear. Because we won't be double staffed at that point. We'll still be able to just employ two people. They'll do all the cooking, preparing, menu preparation, tracking, the reimbursements. They'll do the whole kit and caboodle. And so we won't have that expense in the future, but we got to get the kitchen cafeteria going first.
And just to clarify,
Yep.
there's always going to be a general fund transfer, but it's not going to be that high.
Not that high.
It's much smaller usually.
Yeah.
So the paid for meal, that's just food, right?
Yes,
Um,
we're
We
just
have
talking food
reduced
service. We have two employees on our end.
No, I know, but we
for the
get free or
166.
reduced lunch, right? So people have a lot
Yes.
of questions with that. So why we're paying so much, but we're paying for wages and transportation for
Yeah.
food and all
For,
of that.
yes,
That
the
166.
the
So
transportation twice a week of
if
food
we do our
delivery.
own food here, will it still be free? I mean, if we did it next year, it'd be free and or
Ah.
reduced.
It's all dependent upon the census data. And there's going to be another census done 2 years from now.
Oh, so it's two.
And so assuming that the census data comes out the same as it did the last time, showing, a depressed economic situation, we should still remain at 100% free. If there's a
And that's for
change,
just the food though, so people understand, not
That- just the food.
staffing,
No.
all of that.
no, that's just the food. Absolutely. Yes.
Is that 1610, that $1,500? Is that on the revenue? That's the sales,
1610 is a revenue side,
right?
and that's $1,500. That's to say.
Like
how
staff
many
pay for their
staff
own
pay and
meals.
Any.
So
So cards
what-
usually.
What if, I could be not even understanding this, but when the kids come in and pay for lunch,
They don't.
They don't.
nobody pays for lunch?
No.
Not
Right.
students,
No.
no,
Not
the
students.
Oh, I worked here 2 years ago and people paid for lunch. I don't,
But it's
I,
based-
no, but I mean, kids paid for lunch.
It's new.
It's new.
Yeah.
Couple
Yeah.
years
Okay.
ago, we
It's
just-
based
based
off
upon
of
your-
our census, and it's based on where we're at in that federal poverty
Based on
level.
what?
It's based off census and where our
Okay.
community lives in the federal poverty
Yes.
level
Yes.
line. And what percentage are we
Okay,
over, under, and that's how our school qualifies for those.
that makes sense,
Yes.
because federal
Correct?
Yes,
funds, right?
yes,
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Food only.
food only.
right,
Not-
just
We
for
pay the
food,
rest.
right.
Right, right.
Food, I would
Oh,
like
fruit
to,
only.
I was trying to
Well,
figure
because
out
a lot
what
of
you,
people say, well.
I was trying to
how
figure out
do
what
get
you were
meals?
saying, when
And
you were saying
there's
food
Hundreds
only.
of thousands of dollars put out still.
Okay, that
And
makes
it's-
sense.
And only students receive.
Only students,
Yeah.
okay.
students.
Staff
makes
pay
sense.
out of their
Staff have to
pocket.
pay their own
I remember back in the day when you got like free breakfast, but you didn't get free lunch unless you were qualified for that,
For all of it,
whatever. But
yes.
okay, thank you. Makes sense now.
Yeah. keep going.
Okay, so the next couple pages really quick are your debt service and then your capital and projects. Debt service is revenue of estimated at 110, meaning your beginning fund balance and revenues coming in there at the 18,000. And then you have some current taxes and then prior year taxes to pay for your debt. Bond service, 310 is your bond service debt. So you have to say, how much do I owe? And then, so you have your interest on it and your principal on it. Reserved to the next year is 18,000. 110. Next page is 400 capital projects fund. And you can see that we're not transferring any money in this year. We're leaving at the beginning fund balance that has been there at the 274. So that can be used and it's used for building acquisition and we're using that for bond project.
Okay,
Is that not true?
I thought we transferred that 274, 747 back to our general fund.
Actually transferred the 200.
Right.
So,
Thank you. So we
Yeah,
transferred
so
the
it
200,
would've
leaving
been-
the two.
yeah, it would have been, this number would have been 474.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if we did.
Thank you, thank you.
Then we have 410. Bond, investment, interest on investments, about 15 grand. Then your bond proceeds, this is what this fund is telling you, your bond proceeds, beginning fund balance is coming in at 1.5 million. What you're going to use your bond on is, your bond proceeds on, just in a little bit more defined, is building the bond, building the project. Is 1.5. Your next one is 420, the awesome grant, and it's actually one, when you use it, then you actually get reimbursed. So that's why it's not in any proceeds, it's not in your beginning fund balance, it's state funded, 2.1 million
That's the matching grant.
matching grant, yes. So you're also going to use that on capital projects.
The end of the package. Nice job, folks.
I do have, sorry, I have
No,
some
go
other
ahead,
questions
go
that aren't line items. I waited to the end to make sure we got through it. So,
We
Right.
can't answer those.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm teasing, I'm teasing.
I know.
Go ahead, fire away.
Okay, so I know that there's an answer for this. I know she's got an answer for this. I just don't know what it is.
Sure.
So going through the special fund, right? I couldn't find. I went through and I compared everything just so I could see what the carryover was from last time, from the 30th, 22, June 30th. And I noticed that in the unappropriated funds, when she gave us this resolution sheet last time, that's what this is. On the unappropriated funds, which makes sense, because we moved like $4,325 into that debt service to make it equal the 92,000, which makes sense because that the numbers
Yeah.
work. But in the special revenue funds of 2022, 23, there is a difference of $373,000.
Yeah.
And you got an answer. I know you do.
It's because I put resolutions through in front of the board to increase.
Thank
like your
you.
SIA grant was a huge one for increasing it, but any other grant that comes along, a resolution to go to the board. because
Okay.
we're Not anticipating that revenue coming through.
Thank you.
When you did your budget.
Yep, I knew there was something in there that I was missing, so that makes perfect sense. The other thing is, on our ADM, or on that first sheet that we had where you have the list, the
Mhm.
columns.
Mhm.
If you look at the one from last year where it said 502, 502 people, not the W, just the R, where it said 502 people, and then you had the 660 down there, and we could choose that because we're allowed to choose the 660 to report that. The 502 to 660, and then you have 419 to 660, the ratio doesn't quite make a lot of sense unless our weights went way up. And I'm just wondering if we come out of this with the unappropriated funds of 2 million and change, right? And then in December, they come back and let's say just for math, that our 660 is actually 560, right? That's $1 million basically that we're gonna have to take out of that 2 million. Is that, but correct me if I'm not right, and then move it back to the state. And then with the budget the way it is right now, as strict and tight as it is, unless we were to gain more revenue or have more cuts, that's only gonna leave us with, do you see where I'm going with that? It's only gonna leave us with a little over $1 million.
Well, what you're talking about is just normal budgetary adjustments throughout the year. I mean, that's why we watch it all year long. Don't wait till the end. So if we're noticing a decrease in our ADMW, and then we may have to make some mid-year adjustments, and it may dip into your unappropriated funds, or
Right, that's
you
what
may
I'm
have to make
saying.
cuts, or,
Right.
yeah,
But with those adjustments, like if this was a normal year and we weren't having all these cuts and it wasn't like
Mhm,
this,
mhm.
we would be like, oh yeah, we're gonna be getting this revenue
Mhm.
and this is gonna be happening. And it wouldn't be that big of a deal because we know we'd be getting some other things. But as tight as we are, we pretty much cut as
We're
much as
tight.
we can cut.
We're tight.
So with those cuts, it's not like we can come back in February and go, yeah, we're just gonna cut some more money and to
Mhm,
make that up.
mhm,
We're gonna
mhm.
have to take it out of unappropriated funds. And then unless you have other revenue that's coming
Mhm.
in, that's gonna reduce that.
Mhm,
I'm a little uncomfortable with that, but I get that you have to have a balanced budget.
mhm.
I'm just concerned that we're gonna be on that end next
Mhm.
year. And that's just a statement of concern.
There's always an element of concern. As I explained to people, a budget is your best guess as to what's going to happen next year. We don't know
Right?
exactly. Are we going to jump into another recession? Or are we going to have another pandemic? I don't know. I don't think anybody of us knows. So, I've been in this business long enough to know that there's always concerns of what ifs, no matter what your situation is. I would say one of our biggest challenges, because we are a charter school, is to keep our ADM up, attracting kids, both
Right.
brick and mortar and online. And so Krista knows that. We're going to be starting to talk some marketing plans and things of that nature. But, like for instance, the egg science program is going to be a huge attractant, was what we're predicting.
Right.
And, things of that nature, as soon as, and as we build these programs, like with the vocational center redesign and those sorts of things, it's going to attract kids. And so I really feel confident in the growth of this school district. But that's me rubbing my crystal ball and saying,
Right.
yeah, that's what I predict. So I hear your concern. I really do. And it's always a concern. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but there is monitoring and adjusting. There is certain key points in time throughout the school year that the business manager looks at different predictors and says, we may have a problem, or, hey, I think we got some more revenue coming in. And you just make those adjustments as you go along.
So one of the things, Lori, that you did this year when you kind of worked through financials with the board is you said that we would try to spend at an 85% level. So
Right.
from the beginning of that, from
Mhm.
even the adopted budget, it was cut 15% of
Mhm.
spending in any way we can.
Mhm.
Are we looking at doing something like that this year with like materials and supplies and things like that? Or are we looking at making that suggestion operationally? And with this proposed budget, are we looking at going, well, maybe we could still spend at an 85% level instead of at 100% level? And what that
That's
looks
always
like?
an adjustment. And a key moment for any superintendent is the end of September. That's when you really see what your ADMR is, and because students tend to trickle in.
Mhm.
And so, at that point, that's when I would have the discussion with my business manager and say, okay, where are we at? And if we need to cut back on some spending or adjust this or adjust that, we make those adjustments. And I know that there's other key moments throughout the year too that Lorraine looks at.
Does that help answer like what we
Yeah.
kind of did in this last year
Yep.
to kind of prepare
Mhm,
for some
mhm.
of that too, without looking at necessarily
Right.
cutting a staff
Mhm.
member and things
Right.
like that, but where we're looking at our
Right.
spending as a board, what we kind of
Yes. Yeah,
looked at
thank you, that
together.
helps. And I did want to correct something that I had said at one of the last meetings when Racine, and then Racine made a comment, which I totally agree with. when I was talking about grants, I understand that you can't get a grant for next year and then do a program and then the next year you don't have any money and the kids don't have anything. But what I was referring to are ones that are sustainable, that are 5-year grants or 6-year grants, or where you get this in the program. And the other thing is, with this whole CTE agriculture thing, there is, and you can't take, so you can't reappropriate, take like you've got, let's say you got $50,000 in CTE right now, or in, let's say, forestry. You can't I'm gonna get a $50,000 grant. I can take that other 50,000 and move it over here to somewhere else. You can't do that. And
Also planting.
That's it, exactly. It's supplanting. It's
Right.
illegal.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying, but that doesn't mean you can't expand your program
Correct.
and then do those other things, or agriculture, brand new program.
Mhm. Mhm.
And hence the other things
Mhm.
that come with that, you could totally expand things in the school without doing that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, short-term grants are great for one-time purchases.
Right,
Like, forestry program, they're gonna need
Right.
saws and axes and shovels and safety equipment and things like that. If you have a long-term grant, like you said, 3 to 5 years, that's when you might consider hiring some staff, but with the understanding that
right.
position
Right.
might be gone, or the district has 3 to 5 years to figure out how they're gonna sustain it permanently.
And if that's a viable grant where it
Mhm.
comes from, and you have
Mhm.
proven track history, there's no reason why you can't get that in
Mhm.
the next 3 to 5 years, in the next 3
Yeah.
to 5 years. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to correct that, because
Yeah.
I didn't want it to sound like I was just like, oh, get a grant.
Sure. Yeah, and the grant world is a completely new world. I mean, it's a completely different world. And there's a lot of challenges with that. And you always have to make sure that the grant fits the district. Number one, is the district ready for that grant?
Right,
Number two, does that fit with existing programming and the vision and goals that the district has set? Because there's sometimes you see grants and free money, but that we're going this
yeah.
way and the grant takes us that way. Why would we do that? So yeah, it's a whole different process.
Yeah, the floor's open for questions and
I
comments.
have one question. It starts back on page 151 of the original budget document, the FTE allegations. See, the 6th grade teacher is in there twice, and what I understand from Mr. C's presentation, there was gonna be one.
Page 151.
151 has all the.
Oh, yeah, in the appendix.
That's just
I-
a whole issue.
Did we count it twice accidentally?
No.
No? Oh, yes.
So what issue?
That's a legal issue.
Oh, I know what that is. Never
Oh,
mind.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. It took me a second.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is there a plan that the board and the new superintendent will be aggressively monitoring our budget more than just maybe those normal timeframes that they're checked, because of how lean we're running and the risks and the concerns of keeping our doors open? Are we going to be taking a more aggressive budget monitoring approach next year?
So Jamie, one of the things that Lorraine has really brought to the table this year is expanding the reports, the monthly reports to the board. And of course, the business manager is certainly open to making sure the board has the information they need. I think there needs to be some expansion, and the new superintendent knows this, in terms of budget awareness and budget management, even at the building level. We still have a number of staff that they still are scratching their heads and not quite understanding the budget process. I think that is going to need some oversight and scrutiny, because staff need to know, gee, if I have $500, what can I spend those $500 on? Oh, I can't spend 600. Okay, I can't spend 600. And they need to understand that process, and that we just don't buy things frivolously. We don't spend 500 just to spend 500. So there needs to be some further education and oversight at the building level. Now, in terms of the board level, again, the board can, say, hey, we need this, we need that. And also there's can you describe a little bit about that software? I can't remember.
That's fine.
Forecast 5, yes. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I'm just currently, Jamie the board gets the general funds budget. And then each month they get the general fund expenditures. So that means that they actually look at the budget comparing and then what's going to be encumbered. And also, so they see it monthly. Then I added the forecast 5 reports, which is actually just more graphs. And it shows comparison from prior years and it breaks it down on graph format, to the object level. So you can see that there's a descending if we're descending in salaries or wages or those kind of things. You can also see how our revenue compared to old years. So the forecast 5 is actually a good comparison tool, but the budget itself, they can see that monthly. They get that report monthly.
And the other thing, Jamie, with the forecast 5, I would say this year is a good comparison year. It's a year that we put all the monies in the right files in the file drawer. You know, and there's some order, as you saw, that even there was some history here where it was put in the wrong spot. You know, this year we paid close attention to that. We had oversight, we had checks and balances. And so next year, as you compare the expenditures next year with this year, you should be able to see more of a solid comparison. There's more of a solid history. And that will also help with oversight. And so with those, I would suggest that's probably the path that the board needs to continue. But again, if there's certain reports the board wants to see, kind of like Lorraine had mentioned earlier, you would ask a question about CTE. Yeah, I mean, we could run a report that shows everything associated with revenue for CTE and the expenditures, but that would be more of on the managerial level. But yeah, you could look at those types of things.
Thank you.
Good question.
More questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you for doing this because for me, it was so much, it was,
Yep.
yeah, so much easier.
Good.
The approved budget, I'm just gonna
For the-
incorporate it.
Yeah, but having the detail, it just.
Good.
It's just there. It was
Mhm.
good. Thank you.
I have to agree with that. Thank you for doing this. It made it a lot easier to
Mhm.
understand.
Good.
Thank you for all your hard work, Lorraine. Any more questions or comments from the floor or online? Okay, is there a motion to approve the 23-24 budget?
And the sample is on page 148 of your original document.
Sorry for that. Or you want me to read it out?
It's just a sample motion, so we get the wording correct.
So I just would, if I want a motion, I would just read this statement.
Yes, that would work.
Okay, be it hereby resolved that the Budget Committee of the Alsea School District number 7J approves the proposed budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 in the sum of $17,079,579, and that the Budget Committee further approves the taxes to be levied for Alsea School District number 7J as follows. General Fund Operations for Education, 5.0811 per thousand of assessed value, excluded from limitation 97,000 for payment of bonded debt. Approved at the meeting held on this 9th day of May, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Sounds unanimous. The approved budget. A proposed budget is approved. Lorraine, thank you for your hard work.
Was it- was there any needs?
All right, anything more before we adjourn?
Good job, folks.
Thank you all.
Good job.
Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned at 7:27 or something like that, looks like.
Nice.